I let my best friend stay when he went homeless, but now he's drinking in the house with his homeless girlfriend daily. My best friend Dave is like family to me. My long-term partner is aware of the nature of our relationship and is totally okay with it, being supportive of the decision to let Dave sleep on our couch temporarily. They are also good friends. The couch is often offered to folk that need a place to sleep, and the term is seldom longer than 2 weeks. The offer to pitch a tent or set up a camper in our large yard is always there as well. We have just one simple rule. You don't get obviously inebriated while here, because I do have 2 children living here 95% of the time. We are grass-friendly but do not drink. Nor do we have a problem with occasional recreational drinking. About 2 weeks ago, Dave called me very upset. His long-term romantic relationship disintegrated overnight and abruptly, and he needed a place to sleep. Now, we're pretty crowded with 4 people in a 2-bedroom, but we offered our very comfy community couch, and a rare bedroom when my children were at their father's house. We laid down our one rule in that Dave had up to a month free of rent to find someplace to live. Unfortunately, there's a housing crisis going on, and to get an apartment or even a room you have to constantly apply and have minimum first month rent plus damage deposit ready to go. Which he was doing and had. Well, Dave met a girl and the it has hit the fan. Suddenly he's not looking for a place because Dave is spending all his time and money on her. His girlfriend is also homeless at this time and living in a shelter temporarily. They've been drinking more and more because she drinks. It's gotten extremely awkward because 4 days ago they tried to have intimacy. Loudly, on my couch. In a tiny crowded house. I have teenagers who don't need to see or hear Uncle Dave inebriated doing some messed up chick on our couch. I'd set up our huge tent outside for them, and even borrowed a camper from a fella we had helped before in case it rained. The tent is now wrecked because they broke a pole and it ripped right through the side of the tent. The camper is already trashed after just 2 nights. The vomit in there yesterday was alarming. Which was why it was locked yesterday. It is my responsibility to clean before returning. Which will be returned today because I'm not going to be on the hook for damages or continue to clean that up. Not even for him. But my security camera shows them stumbling around, in and out of the locked camper before literally diving onto the tent. Not into. On top of. I'm a bit worried about what I'll be cleaning today. This is on top of being woken up multiple times nightly by them stumbling into my house to use the bathroom, falling over, vomiting. And if he pays me for a replacement tent, it will be at least another month before he can save enough for an apartment. I certainly can't afford to replace it. And my family is supposed to go camping next weekend. Which has to be cancelled now as we no longer have a working tent. His vehicle is not legal as he let it lapse because he's too busy drinking and messing with this new woman. So at this point he's also risking losing his vehicle, making his situation an hours worse. I'm furious. She's been here for 5 days with him. He's been here 13. That first week was great. Crowded, but no problems. I'm genuinely happy he's found someone, but at the same time it's extremely frustrating having my home and family disrespected like this daily for some inebriated piece of crap by someone who literally calls themselves my brother from another mother. He's also not working because she's always here. Nor is he looking for an apartment or alternate accommodations. And no, we're not getting any rent or compensation. That's not why we offered the couch. It's just an old comfy couch that's been well used by people who needed a temporary safe space. I've known this guy for over 20 years. We've always had this sibling-like bond from day one. Never once did we ever have a problem. Until now. I'm about to lose my crap on him. I shouldn't have to remind someone, a grown-up man at that, daily that we don't want intoxicated people here and that this was our only rule for a free place to crash. Why? My kids have watched their addict father struggle with this crap for years, they don't need to see it here too. This is their home and safe space. Which is why it's literally our only rule. I have reminded him that this isn't going to be a permanent place to stay, especially given the inebriation. And that his time is running out because, again, we can't house him permanently. I worked my butt off and still do because I bought my house over a decade ago to have our own space and so we would not have to deal with addicts in our former apartment complex. My family room is also my office and work area, so being a room down isn't easy either. Because you can't be in there with them. I've actually been asked to leave my family room to give them privacy. Once in a while I won't mind. But I've been basically banned from my own damn workspace for 4 days now. Every couch surfer has always been respectful of our rules and space until now, so we decided enough was enough. We all sat down, first, our teenage kids, my partner and myself. We talked about what happened. Neither kid noticed anything other than me being in a terrible mood this morning. The kids trust our decision that we needed to have a serious chat with A, and that it may result in him leaving and likely being angry. Both kids promised to stay out of it and went for ice cream. We sat down with Dave and said flat out either the alcohol goes or he does. Starting immediately. I never saw him like that before. Like he just lost his best friend, cliché as it sounds. But he understands. He's gone to the back lot for the night to think about what his choice is. I think he's going back there to finish off his whiskey, but I hope I'm wrong. I'll let it go for tonight only. If I find out tomorrow he did go back there to drink by checking the security cameras, he won't be allowed back. I let my best friend stay when he went homeless, but now he's drinking in the house with his homeless girlfriend daily. I no longer have a brother from another mother. When I checked the security camera yesterday morning, I saw Dave drinking all night long on the back lot. Ugly drinking. Hitting trees, stumbling, yelling and crying. I'm glad my cameras don't have audio because it looked brutal. I'd like to say he came to the house sober after he got it out of his system, but I found him passed out in vomit halfway to the back lot. I can't help him at this point without compromising my own rules and family's safety. When we confronted him about the abuse of our hospitality, things got very ugly. We both said things that we shouldn't have. Or at least I did. I'm not sure if he's in any state to remember, let alone regret what he said. But I told him this wasn't the brother I knew and loved, and that I don't want this person in my life. I shouldn't have done that, or at least worded it more carefully. He replied that I never was his brother, that he just felt sorry for me as I'm just someone who is too stupid to see that nobody else liked them. I was useless, and only making people's lives worse. I'm a useless person who uses other people to make myself feel useful. There was more, but I'm not repeating it all. Bad enough I can't stop thinking about whether he's right. That was the crushing point. I can't do this, or put my family through this. Regardless of whether it's the liquor or I'm talking, you can't take that back. It's inexcusable to say that to someone you know is prone to severe depression and went through years of therapy to get those exact thoughts out of my head that were drilled into it by my abusive ex. Dave basically repeated every nasty thing he ever heard my ex say to me. As it is, it's right there all the time. Having him say it. I have an emergency therapy appointment set up in 3 days because I can feel those old feelings of death and not existing coming back. I hate that he just undid literal years of therapy in under 15 minutes. The police took him away yesterday afternoon on an intoxicated and disorderly charge as he refused to leave on his own, and we couldn't let him leave in his vehicle when he could barely stand. Tomorrow his vehicle will be towed. We're done. I'm wondering how much of what he said yesterday was truth, and how much was the liquor. I feel like I just lost my best friend and it hurts so damn bad. My partner just admitted he feels the same way. She doesn't want Dave back here ever again due to what was said to me and the effect it had. She's furious that Dave would dare say any of that to me, knowing full well what I've been through. There's a lot to unpack here yet, obviously.
My boyfriend recorded me being intimate with myself and now we're breaking up. My boyfriend and I had been together for 4 years. He has always been insecure and a little controlling, but his loving actions and the time we spent together was always enough justification. When we decided to move in together, he was helping me pack away my stuff. He stumbled upon some of my toys and was so unhappy with me. He explained he wanted me to throw them away. He would even pay me the cost since he knew they must have been a little expensive. He didn't want to feel like I was being pleasured by anyone or anything but him. I agreed. At this time our intimate life was great and I had no need for any outside help. He also set his boundaries on porn, and asked that I refrain from watching and enjoying myself to it because he sees this as a form of cheating. We have had many discussions about things I was and was not allowed to do. I was under the impression this was the tax of being in a long-term and committed relationship, though I had never given him any limitations on what he was and wasn't able to do. Anyway, a year flew by and we are stuck in long working hours with little quality time. Our intimate life has died down, and it has left me frustrated and annoyed. Anytime we would have intimacy, it was usually fast and only benefited him. I attempted to communicate my side of things, but it fell on deaf ears. I purchased a small toy from Amazon and called it good. In my mind this was an excellent compromise, and honestly improved our intimacy life. The only problem was he had no idea and I had no intention of bringing it up. I hid the very small object in a place he would never look but was easy for me to access. This went on for a few months and there wasn't much of an issue. Lately, he has been much more accusatory and insecure than usual. He's asking me questions about how attracted I am to him, if I'm cheating, if the intimacy is still good. This behavior was normal, and I become very skilled at putting out the fires in his mind. People have anxiety. Things were almost back to normal. One evening he ran to his cousin's house and I was excited to have a little alone time. Buzz, and done. I thought nothing else about it. The following weekend I came home from grocery shopping and found him at the kitchen table with a device and a sour look on his face. There were accusations, and then he pressed the play button and we both listened to me cross the finish line loudly. I was flabbergasted, embarrassed, and overall confused. He had no issue admitting that 2 months ago he installed a recording device in our bedroom and periodically listened in to see if I was talking about him with my friends. This was automatically grounds for a breakup. He has the audacity to accuse me of cheating, and admitted the reason he suspected me was because he happened to find the toy. However, this would mean he thoroughly snooped through my personal belongings, because the spot I hid it in was not a place he would be justified to look into. I can still see the smug look on his face, like he finally won all control and power over me. It ended right there. I shrugged, losing a majority of the respect and love I had for him instantly. There is a small part of me that wanted to feel guilt, but I feel having a healthy intimacy life with myself in a relationship is nothing to be ashamed about. I deserve a partner who encourages me to maintain a healthy intimacy life and is not controlling or nearly as creepy as a man who would install a recording device in my bedroom. I have since moved out, quit my job, and moved far, far away. I just found out that my husband is having an affair with my high school bully. I just can't believe that he could fool me. His affair started 6 months ago. There were no sign. I just found out by accident 3 weeks ago when his phone was on the nightstand. My husband was sleeping with my high school bully. I grew up in a small town and this woman bullied me severely in middle and high school. I confided in my husband that this woman's bullying literally made me attempt to take my life. The only reason I am alive is because my parents come home early and found me on time. Knowing this, he still slept with her. After graduation I did everything to find a job in a bigger city and moved, leaving all the hurtful memories. I worked hard for a year, found an apartment, bought a car, and later started college. That's where I met my husband. We got married 2 years ago. I'm 8 weeks pregnant now. He doesn't know yet. When I was in college, my bully reached out to me after we bumped into each other at a party. She was new in town and was glad she saw a familiar face. She never acknowledged what she did, and I never confronted her. I didn't want to open old wounds, however I wasn't going to befriend her, so I just rebuffed any attempt of reconnecting. She still moved in the same crowd as my husband and me. 3 weeks ago, when my husband was in the shower, he got a notification on Messenger. I thought it was odd since he's not been active on Facebook or Messenger in ages. We know each other's code, so I looked and there was her name and pictures telling him she missed his PP. I scrolled a few messages back and there was a full conversation. Full pictures of everything from both parties involved. I felt sick and my eyes went blurry, so I just left the phone back where it was and acted like nothing. Over the next 2 weeks I looked in his phone whenever I could. I found out that my husband deleted Messenger when he didn't use it, except for the time he forgot, and I found it. I started doing the same. Whenever he's sleeping, playing games, or out for a run, I take his phone and install Messenger. I could trace back their relationship to 6 months ago. They've been sleeping together for 4. A lot of graphic descriptions of what they want to do or have done to each other, but also a lot about me, although it was often one-sided. It's always my bully asking questions and trying to get answers about me, and my husband either reluctantly answering or outright telling her not to talk about me. But they've discussed my intimate life, and apparently I'm a vanilla bean. To her constant questions about if he preferred me better in bed, he told her that she is way better. Discussions about me often ended in him getting irritated and stopping answering for days. I want to leave my husband, but I don't want to tell him why. I don't want to give him or my bully the satisfaction of knowing that they hurt me. I just want to ask for divorce and just tell him that I wasn't in love with him anymore and that I'm not happy in our marriage. It won't be lying technically, because he's not the man I loved and I'm not happy in our marriage. I haven't told anyone what I found out, but I've told my mom that I want to leave my husband and stated the reasons above. She went berserk. I just found out that my husband is having an affair with my high school bully. I have broken the news to my husband that I'm leaving him. I had already talked to my friends about it, and being unhappy in my marriage seemed good enough reason for them to support me. One of them offered me her place until I found my own. I got really emotional and hugged her because that meant that I could leave my husband's apartment now. He was shocked when I told him. I don't think he took me seriously at first, but he asked me if he did something wrong. I told him that I'm simply not happy with him and I think I'm still too young to waste my life in an unhappy marriage. He said he had noticed me being distant this past month, but never would he have guessed I was unhappy with him. He begged me to tell him what's wrong because this can't be it. He believed me, however, when my friend came to take me with her. This was Thursday. He has been calling multiple times a day, but I haven't answered. He showed up this morning to my friend's house and begged me to have breakfast with him. I agreed. He looked like he hasn't slept or shaved since I asked for divorce. I told him that I was pregnant and that I'm keeping it, but he didn't have to be a part of the baby's life if he didn't want to. His phone was on the table and he got a notification from Messenger. So he had forgotten to delete the app before meeting me. When I saw her name, I told him, "Oh. Is that Jess? Yeah, you've been sleeping with her, haven't you? I told you all about what she did to me, but you still went ahead and effed her, you're scum." He was silent the whole time and just looked at me. I ended it with, "Be careful with her. I don't think she's changed much, to tell you the truth." He grabbed my arm and just watched my face like he wanted to see if I knew something. My plan is to buy a small apartment because that's all I can afford right now. A 1-bedroom is enough until I have my baby and it's old enough to need its own room. I can upgrade later when I've saved more. I'm not leaving this city. I've spent my best years here and have the greatest memories. I have my friends around me and hopefully they will still be supporting me when the divorce is a fact. I have already filed for divorce, but he's probably going to ask for a thinking period. My ex-mother-in-law keeps trying to kidnap my daughter. I was with my soon-to-be ex-husband for 16 years. His mother didn't like me at all. My ex and I lived in her house for about 10 years, and we were living with her when my daughter was born. My ex is the youngest of 4 children, and his mother has always been abnormally close to him. They would go away on holidays without me more times than I can remember. I would have to host them on holidays and prepare food for them. My ex had a problem when he drank booze. He would become what I thought was a totally different person. He would be violent and aggressive. He laid hands on me when he was intoxicated. I was young and naive and believed that it was caused by the effects of alcohol. Things were strained between us for a few years. We have a daughter who would tell me wild stories about her dad hurting her that he would always deny. She kept telling me that they were going away at Christmas to Granny's and they weren't coming back. My ex started behaving erratically, crashing cars and leaving our daughter places and forgetting her. CPS were involved a number of times, to the point where I was the primary carer. All the whole his mother was hovering in the background. Everything imploded at the end of 2021. I fell down the stairs and broke my leg. I had to have surgery to reconstruct the bones. CPS were concerned about my daughter being alone with my husband, so they allowed her to be in the hospital with me. Mother-in-law came to town to be a supervisor for CPS so my daughter could go home. Mother-in-law and ex told CPS lies about me and took off interstate with my daughter while I was incapacitated. It took me a month of lawyers' letters to get her back. I now have sole custody and a family violence order. Mother-in-law has attempted to take my daughter from her school, but I got there in time. My ex messaged me this week to ask if he and mother-in-law can take our daughter to Europe for 3 weeks later in the year. I reminded him of the custody arrangements and he said he thought I could ask the court to change the order for a few weeks then change them back. He also confessed recently that his family have always hated me and have actively been trying to get rid of me for years, going so far as having an intervention. I got a hold of my ex's phone recently and found that he had been running a smear campaign about me for years. Everything that I'd been feeling was true, and worse, it was coming from him. I live with a horrible gut feeling that mother-in-law is up to something. Edit. My ex died of a heart attack literally the next day after getting intoxicated. My daughter is grieving and mother-in-law won't stop calling me.